All right, how's everybody doing tonight? I see a couple of regulars in the chat. Pedro's here, Vaz is here, Tony is here. I'm not sure I know who Bat Sauce is. How you doing? Hail.
Oh,
And we have John with me tonight again for Comic Book Team Up.
yeah, Pat
We're
is
gonna
one of my regulars. He's a good guy. He's always in the chat, so it's good to see him over here.
we're gonna talk a couple of obscure comics. Well, we'll get to that. But speaking of comics, John also has. You just watched the video for Fade to Blue. That will be coming out sometime this year. If you want to go to the page to see that trailer and extra art from that, the link for that is in the description. You can leave your email there in order to be informed when the project goes live. And also, John has his book up right now, which is Heroic Tales #2. I'm
Correct.
just trying to do two things at once here, John, and I'm failing miserably.
Yeah.
And you have it on Fund My Comic, Indiegogo, and
No, only Fund My Comic.
Only Fund My Comic?
Only Fund My Comic right now. I'm not doing Indiegogo. It's no big secret, but when this winds down, then I'm going to do a Kickstarter. I did pretty good on Kickstarter, so I told Luke, I'm sorry, but I got it. And he's like, no, go get that money. So I'm going to let this run its course because I don't want them to be competing against each other. When this closes down, it'll be in demand. You could go to Kickstarter. Because there's some people who just won't go to Fund My Comic for whatever crazy reason, but I still need them support also.
All right, so you're up to 113 backers.
Yep. I had 300 backers on my first campaign, so I'm trying to compete with that. So my personal goal is 301 backers. So as you can see, over all my, over all the platforms. So as you can see, I got some to go. I'm trying to get to like 6,000 to fund issue 3. So I got a lot to go, but I'm chugging along like 1 or 2 sales a day. So I'm tracking to do what I want, but man, is it excruciating watching it drip. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I think I am backer number 112.
Oh, cool. Good. And it's 2 complete stories, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to be waiting forever for the second. I know that's a big issue in crowdfunding these days, and I'm probably going to catch slack for saying that, but I want you to be satisfied with that comic. And then, of course, when you buy the next issue, it'll build on this, but it'll be complete, satisfying, beginning, middle, end in each comic. 2 of them. 2 treats in one. Strange.
So, the only reason I actually thought about today's topic was because John and I were talking about cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers in New York last week with Michael Bancroft. And then I saw this cover of the Cavemen of New York. And I thought, yeah, let's talk about obscure comics.
Yeah. I work with that guy with the hammer.
That's funny because Strange Adventures started off as just a random book like the Cavemen of New York, and then became an Adam Strange book after a while.
Right. It was an anthology. That's something that's right now, again, not to get too drama wise, but right now the topic du jour is, this guy's making an anthology. Yeah, they're all laughing. But comics used to be anthologies. Like, you had Western anthologies, war anthologies, sci-fi anthologies. I don't know if there's any fantasy anthologies, but they had them. And Strange Adventures was a sci-fi anthology. And then later on, it became the home for Adam Strange, a character that I absolutely love. It's basically Flash Gordon, right?
I always remember, I can't remember exactly where the story came from, but I think it was the Adam Strange, the Kubert one that came out, the graphic novels I think he had, right? I think it was 4 issues, but it was the fun thing of he had to figure out, I don't know, it was like a lot. And so there was a black pearl and you stuck a hand in the bag and he was able to tell the different colors of each of the marbles by touch. That's how was that. I think that was Adam Strange. Was it Adam Strange? Oh, who am I thinking of though? Well, it might be Adam Strange or it might be, the other. I always get the 2 confused. There's Adam Strange and there's another DC character that's the space character that's sort of off to the side. No one ever thinks about.
Captain Future?
No, I'll have to think about that one. I thought it was Adam Strange, but Adam Strange is just a normal human being, right?
Right. He's a normal human being who gets he gets hit by the Zeta rays and he gets transported to Ron. And Ron is supposed to be like the highest advanced civilization in the DC universe. occupied by humans, and they're so civilized and so advanced that they bred the ability to fight out of them. You know, like they're all like conscientious objectors. So he goes there. They make fun of him as the caveman, but he's fighting off all the monsters. You know, and you know, they kind of said that he's like the only fertile male left. So like he's the future, and it's kind of mean they make fun of him when he's not around, and then when he's around, they rely on him. But I guess that's what happens when you rely on something. You know what I mean? You kind of resent it. It's a really complex story for a Silver Age DC comic. It's one of my favorite Silver Age comics. Every time I see an Adam Strange comic, I pick it up. I really do recommend it.
I'm going through on another page obscure DC characters, and I cannot find the one I'm looking for, but I ran across the Weird. Do you remember the Weird?
Yeah, that was Brady Wrights and Marv Wolfman, or who I remember Bertie Wrightson into the art, and I can't remember who wrote it, but I think it was Bertie Wrightson and Terry Austin doing the art. Yeah, the Weird was like this ultra powerful Weird. Yeah, he only showed up in like 4 issues, and I think he was in like the DC universe, and then we never heard from him again.
Yeah, talking about obscure comics. Let me throw that up. See if anybody besides John or I remember the Weird.
The Weird.
Let's see.
Yeah, that was around Crisis on Infinite Earths time. I think DC was making so much money that they just took a lot of risks and chances. The Weird begins as a member of other dimensional race of beings known as the Zarolats. There's a word you don't get to hear every day. Who decided to rebel against the pirate masters, the Macrolots. You know what? If I said it once, I said it a million times. The Macrolots are not to be trusted.
I remember if you're looking for a very interesting but off the beaten path mini series, go check out the Weird, because I think I don't know if it's 4 issues or if it's longer than that. I think it might be longer than 4 issues.
And it's Bertie Wrightson artwork.
There it is, Captain Comet. That's who I'm thinking of. I always get Captain Comet and Adam Strange confused.
Yeah, they're basically the same character, except Captain Comet, I think, has powers because he's the man. He's the man from 100,000 years in the future, you know. And then Adam Strange is basically an archaeologist from right now. He's Flash Gordon. He got transported instead of to Mongo City. It's Ran. Tony Grigo brings up the Atomic Knight. That was another weird one. The Vanguard, they were awful. They showed up at a Teen Titans annual, and they are just awful. look at those character designs.
Looks like someone who was trying to imitate the Fantastic Four and did a horrible job.
Yeah, they're from space. They showed up, and each one is like vastly powerful, and they were just horrible. They were just Prince Gavin. Yeah, he was Starman for a little while. Ultra, the multi-alien. Yeah. Tommy Tomorrow.
There's Adam Strange.
The Sun Devils.
Oh, the Sun Devils.
Yeah,
I forgot all about the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I don't have any of their comics. I don't know anything about the Sun Devils. A team of cosmic adventurers. You know what I'm reading? I got is a Atari Force. You ever read that?
No description. Yes, Atari Force. I have some of them, but I really don't remember reading them at all.
They're excellent. They're excellent. I avoided them like the plague because I'm like, they're based on a stupid video game console, but they're excellent. I recommend it. Beautiful Jose Garcia Lopez artwork, and why can't I think of the artist? The writer. Yeah, the Sun Devils. I don't have any of these comics. Don't make me buy Sun Devils, RJ.
I remember this comic, but I don't remember. I don't think I have any of these in my collection.
Who's the creative team? Does it tell us?
Let's see.
Barry Conway, Roy Thomas, with art by Dan Jurgens. Oh, I love Dan Jurgens. You can make me buy this, RJ. I'll look it up. If it's cheap, I'll buy an issue.
1984, I imagine it's a maxi series. Yeah, you probably get it for $12.
Yeah, you probably And I can't get the collection. I got to get the floppies. For all I know, I have them already. Sometimes I lose track of stuff.
Okay, let's go back here for 1 second.
The Sun Devils, Knights of the Galaxy. I don't know anything about them.
Start pop-ups.
Yeah. So what are you looking at? Just obscure DC characters?
Yeah, basically, these are obscure cosmic characters. Basically, what is
Gem.
where is Gem from? Is that
Gem,
from?
Gem is from Saturn, and I don't know if they originally made it, but or they retconned it, but they made the there was green Martians, which are the good guys, and then like the
Right.
white Martians were the bad guys. They colonized Saturn and then like made a slave race that became Gem, son of Saturn. So again, I don't know if that was originally part of his origin or if they added onto it later on, but he became an escaped slave.
I remember Legion. I loved Legion, even though it fell down so much.
Yeah, Legion was a big deal when it came out. It was originally Legion 87 and it was like set in real time, and I think it made it up to Legion 93.
89.
Yeah, and it became Rebels. Yeah, there you go. There's Rebels, and it was actually really good. Good Barry Kitson artwork.
Oh yeah, it was a
like,
prestige comic.
Yeah, it fell off a cliff though, but it was good. When it was good, it was really good.
If anybody doesn't know, Legion 89 was basically you take the Legion of Superheroes and put them into 1989, which is when it was current day.
Right.
But these are all their ancestors.
Right. Or yeah, ancestors. That's the right word. Yeah. So yeah. So that was like Brainiac, and then his descendant became Brainiac 5, and
Yeah, Block and Shadowlass and a whole bunch of different ones. Yeah.
Poor Legion of Superheroes. That's a comic that DC just fumbled. Like they were like running towards the end zone unopposed, and then they just tripped and fell and dropped the ball.
Yes, and I forgot because you got Captain Comet was part of Legion as well, and so was, I can't remember her name, the woman from the extra dimensional woman that survived. Lady Quark. Yes, Lady Quark. Thank you.
I don't like that character. I don't know why.
She reminds me of Magma from New Mutants.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, but she was like, she was different in the fact that like she was supposed to be like 40 years old, which was rare for a woman. Like George Perez made her like a mature woman, vastly powerful. And every superhero girl is like in their young 20s, and the fact that she was like she had her husband was like clearly 60 and she was like 40. I don't know. I just thought that was unique at the time.
I don't know why. I always liked Phase from Legion because I always liked Legion of Superheroes anyways. And
right.
You had or not. That's basically what I patterned Phantasm after. My character.
I'm looking at the chat. I just realized there's people here joining us and I don't want to ignore them.
Oh, I'm in a different screen, so I apologize.
Yeah, when you're going that, yeah, that's why Mar Hunkel, the original Red Tornado, that was a character. She wore like pajamas and then like a crock pot on her head or something like that, and I just was like, that's just goofy. But I started to fall in love with that character. That she was just basically a mother who was concerned about crime in her neighborhood and just put on a disguise to like get drug dealers and people, out of her neighborhood. Blue Devil and Red Devil. Yep. Blue Devil, there was a TV show. I know Blue Devil was, they were leading towards him in the Swamp Thing TV show.
Really?
Yeah. They actually cast I can't think of the actor's name, but he's one of the actors from Beverly Hills 90210 to play Ted Cassidy, and they were going and meeting him. And then I think because that was on a streaming service that my wife canceled, so I never got to see the second season of Swamp Thing or the later episodes of Swamp Thing.
I got to pull this up. Blue Devil is one of my favorite books because back then, let me pull it up first. I got to pull up the
George Morales said, I think Swamp Thing got canceled because it was too expensive. Well, same reason they canceled Rome, I think, because I don't know if they canceled, but they ended Rome when Cleopatra, yeah, that's right. They could have went with Rome. But this is what I heard about Swamp Thing, was that they got all the money and they filmed it and it was really good. And then they're like, okay, where's the money for the next season? And they're like, no, that was all the money. That was all the money for the entire show. You used it on one season. So they were like, oh, but I thought that was every season. They're like, nope. So they got canceled.
The reason
Yeah, these are good.
reason why I love Blue Devil so much is because if the darn pop-ups keep on coming up.
I know.
Give me a second here.
I love that Paris Cullen's artwork on Blue Devil.
The first issues. Yeah. I love the first issue. I don't know who actually was doing that at the time. You know more than I would.
Yeah, it was Paris Cullen, the artwork. I can't remember who wrote it, but I loved it. It was like cartoony, but not at the same time. It was really good. Yeah,
it was
Dorling played Blue Devil in the Swamp Thing show.
Back in the day, this is back in the day where if you weren't there around, you wouldn't know this, but it was like when they rebooted a Flash, you rarely ever saw a #1 DC. And the Blue Devil came out and was like, I'm buying that. And I just followed it. Like I got every last issue and I fell in love with it because honestly, it was something to behold to see a DC comic with the #1 on it at that time.
Somebody's asking Ludiverse, wait, Blue Devil isn't a demon devil? He started out as a special effects guy, and they were making a movie called The Blue Devil, and he wore this suit, and it was all special effects. The staff had like sparklers and electronic stuff like that, and the hokiness is this special effects guy makes an exoskeleton that gives him 10 times the strength and agility of a human. Why isn't he working for the defense or the government? But anyway, and then a real demon shows up and traps him in the suit, so he can't get out of the suit. And then later on, I guess the curse turns him into a real demon, after the series is over. So now he's like a legit demon, but at first he was just a guy trapped in a suit.
Yeah, the whole first run was just him trapped in the suit, basically became him.
Right. Like once he was cursed, like he could feel cold, he could, you know what I mean? Like the suit and he merged. Yeah.
They went up to 32 issues, it says. I missed that book.
This and Blue Devil came out around the same time, and Booster Gold. Those are the comics that I always got around the same time. Booster Gold was a fun comic too.
And what is it? Booster Gold plus Blue Beetle came out at the same time, right?
Yeah, and Blue Beetle was also Paris Cullen's, the first couple of issues. And when he left, the sales on Blue Devil just plummeted. Although I will say, in the later issues, they had the original Blue Beetle, Dan Garrett, show up in a different costume design. That is my favorite Blue Beetle costume. The Steve Ditko Blue Beetle costume is awesome. But I'm talking about the original Blue Beetle, because the original Blue Beetle was just a guy in a blue wetsuit with red underwear. But they redesigned that guy's costume in that series. So good. There was also Captain Atom came out around this time. And that had glorious Pat Broderick artwork.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Mega Man.
Yep, Mega Man was another good series. That was tied in with the new Teen Titans. And the Omega Men was the Vega system. So the Vega system was, like we have the solar system, so because we orbit Sol, the star, the sun is named Sol. But there's I forget, like 10 planets that orbit Vega, and each one of them has their own unique race. So it's like a miniature galaxy. And there's wars. And originally it was like the Scions were the reptilian scientists with no emotions, and they just experimented and spread life throughout this galaxy. And then you have the Gordian slavers and other races. It was Star Wars, but the leader of the group was a Ryandar, who was the brother of Coriandar from the New Teen Titans. So they kind of went back and forth, and it also introduced Lobo to us, I think, in issue number 9.
Yep, that is the unfortunate thing about Omega Man. The only 2 issues that actually have I think it was the introduction of Lobo was in Omega Man, but I'm thinking of what's the other book? It was the first issue that what the heck was it? Coyote has first Todd McFarlane, or is it Todd? Really? Is it Todd McFarlane or Rob Liefeld? I can't remember. But anyways, but I thought it was a Mega Man for a minute, but no, it's just a Lobo.
Yeah, and Logo looked nothing like he looks now. He was all frail and skinny. He's another character that evolved. became
And Omega Man was this issue here, the number one that you see on the left left-hand side. These are prestige again comics at that time. Printed on Baxter paper. You could only get them at the comic shop. They were not on newsstands.
Right. So they could be a little bit more risque, although they would be really tame by today's standard. Yeah, Tony Grigo's correcting me. Omega Men were led by Primus, and Lobo debuted in issue number 3. Right. Ryandar was just one of the freedom fighters. And one of the things about the Omega Men is characters died. And not just like the, like legit character. Like, oh my God, I like that guy. And he's dead and he stayed dead. Like it was a shocking comic. Superboy and the Ravers I never liked. Space Cabbie I never liked. That's such a DC. The Perforated Man, I don't even know that.
Looks fairly new, yeah.
Captain Venture. Adam Blake. Interplanetary
Insurance Corporation.
Yeah, that's what I want. We are the underwriters of the galaxy.
Iron Wolf was an interesting book when it came out.
That was Howard Chaykin, right?
I don't remember, honestly. But it was, the art. It was very much like Conan in space for the art, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Howard Chaykin, but I might be wrong. I might be thinking of something else.
Let's take a look. Darn pop-ups.
I know.
Creators Howard Chaykin. Yep. Howard Chaykin. 15-issue miniseries. Yeah, he uses a 357 Magnum and a Cutlass.
Right. Yeah.
There you go. 1980s for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got those. The Space Museum. Tanga. Oh, I know. Yeah. Okay. She was. I think she was a recent creation or recent meeting, like around 2000 or so. She was in the backup for Adventures in Space, and I think it was Barry Kitson did the art. Yeah,
I can't remember. Starfire for the life of me. I think of George Perez, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, there was another Starfire before her. I think she was like a space pirate. Yeah.
Yeah, this one here.
Hardcore Station. That's where all the tough guys come from. Power Boy. Mighty Boy. Lumina Lido. What is she?
Looks like a Wonder Girl or Power Girl ripoff.
I wonder if she's like in the Legion of Superheroes after I kind of lost interest. Vartox. This guy is just ridiculous. There you go.
Looks like Zardoz.
Yeah, I think that's what they're goofing on. But there you go. Guys, if my comic hits $6,000, RJ will cosplay as Vartox.
I think I have a vest around here somewhere.
Hyperman. Ultra. The Galactic Patrol. Space Canine Patrol Agents.
Oh, good heavens. We're getting down into the dregs, I think.
Draga. Joshi. And Willow.
We missed a couple from the beginning.
So what is this? This is just what?
DC Alpha? Cosmic Heroes. I was trying to find
Chris KL99. He sounds like a rapper. There you go, Captain Comet.
Yes, that's what I was trying to find. That's the newer Captain Comet. They even got Hawkman under. Well, I suppose this is
it's from another planet.
Harbinger from Crisis on Infinite Earth. Yeah. And then after that, she was in, what was she in after that? Mosaic, I do believe.
Yeah, there's no purpose for her. She, she was the harbinger of the Monitor. So what after, there's no reason for the Monitor after Crisis, so there's really no reason for Harbinger, Fringe.
Fringe was very early 90s, late 80s.
Right, this character. Is copying Image Comics. The Dark Star.
Oh, the Dark Stars. I forgot about the Dark Stars altogether.
Yeah. Donna Troy became a Dark Star. They were like the alternate Green Lantern Corps. They were the extreme 90s. They killed their foes and stuff.
Larry Stroman. Yes, that's right. That's why I bought the book. I couldn't remember why I bought it. It was because Larry Stroman did art on it.
Well, Ludiverse says this list makes it hard for me to care about DC. What makes me not care about DC is they reboot every 5 years. But also keep in mind, DC is like literally 25 years older than Marvel, and they, Marvel really started in 1962 with Fantastic Four. Before that, there were Atlas comics. So DC was, National and I think there was like 3 companies that merged to form DC, and they were doing hokey comics since the beginning of comics. So I cut DC a little bit of slack, like stuff like Space Cabbie. That was probably a big seller at the time.
The great thing of looking at this list is, number one, you do realize that current characters today are going to become like this. No one's going to ever remember them. And
Right.
B, they got a plethora of old characters that were fairly good and sold at one point that have never been touched by the current craziness that someone could use.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And every once in a while, they'll pull one out of obscurity and revamp them, like Major Bummer. They could take Major Bummer and bring him back, or he's the guy that there was one that was supposed to be like DC's Hulk. Was it Major Bummer? He was like a kid who like got morphed into like a Hulk-sized creature. There was a lot of strange DC comics. Vexed, you remember Vexed?
Off the top of my head, I can't picture it, but it sounds familiar.
I think it lasted like 6 issues. It was Keith Giffen, and he was supposed to be like the god of bad luck, but like he himself suffered from bad luck, so he was vexed. He was like an unknown new god or something like that. It was goofy. It came out back when Keith Giffen could do no wrong. I think during the Justice League, when he was at the height of his powers.
Yeah, with his 9 panels.
Yeah. I'm looking at the comment. Abrax says some of the costumes on these characters are so freaking awful. They must be Dave Cockrum, who's one of my favorite. But some of his, oh man, Dave Cockrum made some of the best costume designs of all time. He made the new X-Men. He made the Legion of Superheroes. I'm trying to think what bad Dave Cockrum designs, like Vartox. Was that Dave Cockrum? If Dave Cockrum made Vartox, then I stand corrected. Raider Bill.
I figure we would do some Marvel since we're going through DC.
This Ares series, ladies and gentlemen, this is awesome. There's 2 Ares. I think there's a 4-issue miniseries, and there was a 5-issue miniseries. And I'm really surprised that he's not a major character in modern Marvel. Those 2 series were awesome. They were really good, and they did a really good job of like redeeming the Greek mythological character. Like, he would the Greek mythological Ares, god of war. I'm sure, like in the Mycenaean Greek time, he was a total badass. But by the time the classical Greek, they were more civilized. They didn't like war, so they made him like a coward and like dishonorable. But what happened was there was a war in Asgard, and none of the gods could fight it. And they went to Ares. He's like, oh, apologize to me. And he just came out, and he was just like a murder machine. It was an awesome, awesome series. And and it. I don't want to spoil it. I almost spoiled it, but it was really, really good. A great design. I love this. These were good series. I recommend this. I'm sure there's 2 trade paperbacks. If not, if you don't want to get the floppies.
I love that cover right here.
Yeah, it RJ, you would like it because it's like godlike Conan.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at that design. He just looks tough. And this Gennis Vel, this was that
was something that came off of Quasar, if I remember.
No, he was Marvel's son.
Oh yes, he had his own series.
Right, he had a wife called Alicia, and she lived on Titan, and they brought her up every once in a while. She was like, and then they just now they have a son. Like he kind of came out of nowhere, and they called him Legacy at first. And he came out in the 90s, and he had a tattoo on his butt that said "Kiss my butt." He was extreme, and he just sucked. And they forgot about him. And then Peter David brought him back as Captain Marvel and redeemed a totally terrible character, and it was awesome. And then he had the cosmic awareness, but he couldn't handle it as Marvel, and he slowly went mad. It was a really good series. It started out Peter David like pop culture references and stuff, but it really evolved really, really well. Major Victory.
I never liked Major Victory. It always just threw me for a loop. He was part of
the Guardians of
the new Warriors for a while, was it not?
Right. Yeah. He's Justice in the New Warriors, but in 1,000 years in the future, he's Major Victory of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Shatterstar. I just don't like Rob Liefeld or his creation. Well, I like Liefeld. I like him, but I don't like his creations.
Nova was never a character I could get behind. I just never liked Nova.
I like Nova, but I hate that costume. You know, it's the 90ing it up. Star-Lord, that's not the Star-Lord that I grew up with.
Love Longshot. I missed the first series when it came out because it was a huge thing. But I bought a guy's collection about 2-3 years after that, and he had the full run of it. It was one of the gems of that collection.
Yeah, Longshot. That was Ann Nocenti and Art Adams, if I remember.
Art Adams, yeah.
Dark Hawk was a comic I missed. I was totally broke when this came out, but I went. They're like 50 cents a back issue.
They're not. You didn't miss much.
What I liked about him is he got these powers, and he was like a nice kid, and it like heightened his aggression. So like the more you use the powers, the more aggressive he became. So it was always like, I don't want to use my power. To me, that was like a cool Marvel weakness, you know. Here we got Warlock. I kind of liked Warlock, but I don't think that they knew what to do with him. And I know he's in the New Mutants, but he's not a mutant. He just doesn't fit the New Mutants. It was a weird time. And Bill Sienkiewicz's art was perfect for him.
Yeah, it was a techno-organic virus, basically. But they screwed up the entire storyline by merging it with Belisarius's Limbo, where Magic grew up, and then he took over the entire dimension.
Yeah.
Not his father, the techno-organic virus, which was basically part of him and his father.
It's funny because you see Adam Warlock below him. Adam Warlock in the Jim Starlin series evolves into the Magus, and then the techno-organic Warlock was running from his father, who's the Magus. So I was literally waiting for years for them to reveal that they were the same person. Like Adam Warlock and the Magus somehow, he evolved into this techno, but they never did. And it was funny because Adam Warlock was out of Marvel while they had this Warlock. And then when they were done with this guy, basically killed him off, they brought back Adam Warlock. So I was just like, there was no excuse not to it had like the same thing. A guy named Warlock is running from a guy named Magus. So I thought that they had to be tied together, but they weren't.
Yes, Limbo. That's what I was talking about, Limbo. It wasn't Limbo. Well, I suppose it was Limbo originally, but I mean, it was the dimension that was ruled by I can't remember.
Velasco. It was I think it was hell, but they didn't want to commit to the bit, and they called it Limbo.
And of course, Adam Warlock started off as him in Fantastic Four. That was one of the earliest Fantastic Four that I owned. And I was so happy that they were going to use him in the movies. Thought, hey, that one might shoot up a little bit in price, but it never took.
Adam Warlock is one of those characters that I feel possessive over. It's like, that's my character. And they did him dirty in the movies. The Black Knight. I hated when they put the Black Knight in a jacket.
The bomber jacket from the 1990s. They had the entire Avengers in bomber jackets.
Yeah, they try to image farm. Starhawk was interesting. He was one of the later additions to the original Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm surprised he's not popular right now because he's literally male and female. He could transform into a male form, into a female form. You think that these days that they would love that, And
then they'd have to pay the original person who made it instead of getting someone to make up a new one.
And now they got Sylvester Stallone playing him in the movies. Do you think Sylvester Stallone would be like, "What? I turned into a girl?" And he looks nothing like that. Rom, a great
two characters we talked about last week, Rom and Quasar. Love both of those.
Yep. Quasar. Yep. Gladiator. Everybody loves Gladiator.
What is your okay? I can pretty much guess what the answer to this question is, but what is your most beloved version of Silver Surfer?
Oh, the original, of course. You know, the Jack Kirby version, the Stan Lee. Whoa, why am I here? Whoa, what is wrong with me? The big whiny space guy. Uh, I liked, and then when they, oh, did you lose me? And then when they freed him from the Earth, to me, he lost what made him unique. He was this cosmic guy that sacrificed everything to explore the stars, and then couldn't. And now he's just another guy that flies around in space.
Although I got to say, I agree with you. Jack Kirby's Silver Surfer was the best. But you go look up, if anybody wants obscure comics, go look up Mobius's Silver Surfer. Go look up the Last Galactus story.
Oh yeah, the Last Galactus story is good. Yeah, yeah. They never finished it. That drives me nuts. They never finished it.
And everybody, I didn't go see they're calling it the New Avengers now, but the Thunderbolts with Sentry in it.
I like the Sentry. Did you read any Sentry comics?
Honestly, no. I mean, I flipped through them, but I don't own them. Someone else owned them. I don't know if it was my brother or not.
He's the last great Marvel character. I really love. He has this, they made a hoax, and they said that Stan Lee created like a Superman homage ripoff, whatever you want to call. And then, Jack Kirby didn't like it, so he got somebody. And I remember they used the name Artie Simek as the Herb Simek, but they took Artie Simek and then another guy, and they made up a name that sounded familiar. Like he originally was going to draw the Sentry, and whatever, he died or whatever, and so they put the comic away. And then Stan Lee came out and was like, "Oh yeah, I remember it," but it was all a hoax. And I remember a lot of people got mad. But if you read the original 6-issue series of the Sentry, you find out that hoax is part of his story. So this guy is vastly powerful, and he's schizophrenic. He's the Void and he's the Sentry. And the more he uses his powers, the more the Void gets powerful. So the only way for him to defeat the Void is to not use his powers. It's kind of, and he gets to the point where he's like godlike. And then he's got part of his delusion is he thinks he's friends with all the superheroes. So he like meets all the superheroes, and they ape like Jack Kirby artwork and like retroactively inserted him into all the origins of all the superheroes. And I remember people got mad, but the thing is, it's through the eyes of the Sentry, who's crazy. So he could have just been a guy who got powers and then telepathically sent out his delusion to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought it was a brilliant concept. And then, of course, he just became super powerful guy number 6 once Michael Bendis took over. But that whole Paul Jenkins was his original creator. The Paul Jenkins original Sentry I thought was brilliant. And then they just made him powerful guy. Which superpower would I not want to have? I would not want the power to fly. And here's why. It's too, like, am I the only person on the planet with superpowers and I can fly? You don't think I'm going to get dissected by my own government within 20 minutes? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I want, like, in the real world, I would like immortality and like shape change. You know what I mean? Like real subtle powers. So I could just live my life, without, I'm not going to go fight crime. You know what I mean? Or if I do fight crime, I have like a built-in disguise or something like that. But like really, as mean as this sounds, in real life, the ultimate superpower would be mind control. You know what I mean? Like you just walking down the street, somebody tries to mug you. It's like, you're not going to mug me. You're going to go turn yourself into the police. You know what I mean? I don't even have to fight. This guy just turns. And by the way, you're going to leave all your money right here because I'm mugging you now. Things like that. But I don't want to fly. I don't want to burst into flames. I'm going to get captured and dissected. So you need a power that is subtle, and you got to be subtle about it. You can't just be like, I got mind control. You'll be captured by the CIA in 20 minutes.
Here's a obscure question for you. Did you buy the Death of Captain Marvel graphic novel when it first came out?
Yes, I did. I bought it when it first came out, and I found out it was like the 4th printing, so then I had to track down the first printing. So I got 2 copies of it.
It's funny because the only reason I bought it was that it sat on the shelf of our comic shop, the local comic shop, forever. It was there for like 2 years. Nobody wanted it. And so I finally bought it.
It was a good comic. Jules says, right. The government won't dissect you with immortality, but it will. Well, the thing about immortality is like you got to go fake your own death. You got to, you got to prepare for it for like 20 years. Like, I'm going to put my money in this account, things like that. Or, or you got to move to like a country with bad records, like India or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't live in the States because sooner or later they're going to catch up. Why is this guy still getting Social Security?
Star Fox was a good character in the 90s. I'm sure they have done him dirty since then just because of who he is.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't consider Doctor Strange cosmic. Like, to me, there's a fine line between cosmic and mystical. I know I'm a crazy person, but that's the way I think. I like Flash Thompson as Venom. I thought that was pretty good. That kind of worked. Black Bolt is what a great costume. I love Wonder Man. It's funny because now, like, the Wonder Man is going to be, they're going to focus on him as an actor and a black guy. So, it's going to be like Jamie Foxx with powers, and they're totally going to leave out the whole, like, I was dead for 20 years and I'm afraid of dying again and I'm exploring more mortality. The stuff that really made me like Wonder Man. And I remember people are preemptively going, all these racists are going to all of a sudden decide that they're Wonder Man fans and complain. It's like, dude, I've been getting Wonder Man comics since Avengers #9, so shut up.
I can relate because I remember going to, it was basically a county fair, and I just got bored after a while. And so I went to a 7-Eleven that was next to where the fair was. And that's what I bought. I bought Wonder Man. I sat there and I read it because I wanted something to do. And then I bought it, and when it had its own series, and I bought it after that until it finished.
That Rocket Raccoon, I remember I got the 4-issue series, and it was early Mike Mignola art, and I hated it. And I just remember at the end of the series, he was like locked back into his dimension, never to be seen in Marvel again. Lo and behold, like, now even your grandmother knows who Rocket Raccoon is.
Rocket Raccoon used to be one of those comics that everybody would have in a 25-cent box. Right. Nobody wanted it.
That's the costume they went with for Hercules?
Yeah, Hercules is one of the characters they've really messed over in current day Marvel.
That is an awful costume. That is just awful. Charlie 27. I've always liked Charlie 27.
Part of the
original Guardians
of the Galaxy. Yep. Beautiful Thor art, although I'm not sure why he's on this list.
Well,
Hyperion.
I always liked that Hyperion. I always thought it was just a cool name. It's one of my favorite names for mythology. Hyperion. Just sounds regal and powerful.
Yep. Talking about obscure comics. Again, the whole Squadron Supreme, for anybody who doesn't know, was created they created an Earth which circled around in the 616 galaxy, circled around the sun in the exact opposite orbit of, normal Marvel Earth, so that you could never tell it was there because it would always be behind the sun.
Right. And they were analogs for the Justice League. I mean, they were made to be spoofs of the Justice League. Power Princess was Wonder Woman. Dr. Spectrum was Green Lantern. Nighthawk was Batman. I just, now that he's on Earth, like, he should be like the most powerful. If he's a Superman knockoff, he should be the most powerful superhero. People should be talking about him all the time. Yondu. Is Triton cosmic? I know Black Bolt is, but Triton's a guy who's just like, he swims around the water.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. More Nova. I don't even know who Nova is.
That's Marvel Boy.
Oh, right. The idiotic one. I did a video on it a long time ago. Night Mask. Oh, the ancient one. Now, there you go. There's a good obscure character, the ancient one.
Not an Irish woman. He's an actual Tibetan. But Marvel had to change him because they couldn't have a Tibetan hero and sell a movie in China.
Yeah. Current day Marvel is Volstagg. I love the Warriors 3.
I always loved Volstagg.
He's your hero. You should stop doing Odin and do Volstagg.
I love what Walt Simonson did with them. He actually gave the guy like a real heroic story
and a family.
Yeah, he had the family and the little girl, and and he became like a legit hero instead of just a comedy relief.
Yeah, I remember that because he had like, I don't know, the 12 kids or something. You couldn't even keep track of how many children he had.
Right. And he had the little girl was like a tough girl. Yeah, they were based on Shakespeare. So Volstagg was Falstaff from the Midsummer Night's Dream, and Fandrill was Hotspur, who was what, Henry V. That was his name, Hotspur, that he went out adventuring as. So of course, in my hero tales, I have a character named Hotspur who's Fandrill in a different universe.
Who was Hogarth then?
Hogarth, I think, was just made up whole cloth. I don't think
That was a
Hogarth.
good character.
Yeah, Hogan the Grim.
Yes. And that's what Drax actually looks like a little bit in the comics. He's more, if you go back to Infinity Gauntlet, he's just green with a
He's just green with the big purple
cape
and everything. But this is they had Drax the Destroyer as the purple cape flying cosmic powered being, and then they just made a limited series of Drax. He crash lands a ship in Alaska, and he gets this little girl sidekick, and he looks like this. And I don't know if they ever explained like how he lost all his power. Like, he used to fly, shoot laser beams, and survive in space and all that stuff. And now
he looks like a flying Hulk, basically. Right. They have a picture of him here anyways, and they don't. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, John Burt. That's what he looked like for so long.
That's the tame version of him. If you go back to, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, basically Cosmic Hulk.
Yeah, he had the power gem in the Infinity Watch, and he was like the ultimate physical being. He was stronger than the Hulk while he had the power gem.
Let's see. Just waiting for that stupid pop-up to come up so I can get rid of it. The Vanisher. Now again, here we got the characters I don't know anything about.
The Vanisher, I think he appeared in X-Men #3. He was an early mutant. He like.
Oh, okay. Yes.
That's not what he looked like. He had like a baby bib originally. One of Jack Kirby's worst costume designs.
Now, Baldar is a great character from Walter Simonson's run on the Mighty Thor, and he did his own. I think it was. I don't know if it was a miniseries. It was a miniseries, but it was a miniseries or maxi series.
All those original series were 4 issues. That seemed to be the standard. I think it had to be some reason to do it, like to get it distributed. It had to be at least 4 issues. So most of those early Marvel and DC miniseries were 4 issues.
These, yeah, there's your Walter Simonson right there.
Yep.
I was going to say, let's see. I wonder if they have one of the older covers I'm looking for. But one of I think it's Balder the Brave #1 is one of the covers that I patterned Crom the Destroyer after, or basically the female lead in Crom the Destroyer, although she's in it very little, which I'm still working on, guys. I'm still working on it. Just to let everybody know, we had to redo some of chapter 1. So that's what we're doing right now. Just to let anybody who has ordered Crom the Destroyer, we're unfortunately still working on it, but it's coming along.
Manifold. Yeah, he was one of the new Avengers, and I honestly don't know what he does. I don't know what, you know how I have the superhero name as the focus. What does Manifold mean?
It's part of a car.
Gorgon. It always bothered me because Gorgon basically means shining eyes, and they were the names of the 3 sisters. So like, it's to me that as much as I love the character Gorgon, it's like, Jack, come on, it's a female name.
There's Hogan the Grim.
Yep. I love the Watcher, by the way. He's just what here's a stupid character. Oh, the Watcher I love. Look at that. That is a great picture. And I love when they make him look like a big baby in space. It's just so alien and creepy. The more they make the Watcher human, the less cool he is.
My question is, how populated is the moon? Because at one point, what do you got? You got the Watcher living on the moon. You had the Inhumans all living on the moon. And then, a couple of years ago, they put the entire X-Men team on the moon. It's getting a little crowded.
Yeah, but I think the Inhumans moved to the Atlantic Ocean now. They moved again. That's what I think. That's Hogan. That is Wiccan. He's awful. Scar, I don't care for. I do like Cosmo, the telepathic dog. Bug, I love. I love Bug. He's one of the few characters created in the Micronauts that Marvel actually owns. So I think they threw him in the Guardians of the Galaxy, but he's a denizen of the Microverse. I really thought Bug was going to show up in the new Guardians movie, but I guess it's too similar to Mantis.
Yeah, they should have made him. I always thought that he moved more like Nightcrawler.
Right. And Mantis in the comics isn't an alien. She's actually I think she's French Vietnamese. She was a prostitute. There's no way they're going to keep her the way she was in the comics.
Yeah, no. All right, we got to the end of that list. Let me go back to my obscure covers in a minute. Again, apologies to everyone. What was that, John?
Oh, I stopped talking because you were talking. George Morales says the Queen of the Norms was only a Thor villain because she had the hots for Baldur. Yeah. And she was made up whole cloth by Kirby because the Norns with 3, past, present, and future. And then he made Carnella, Queen of the Norns. Really made no sense, but that's Jack Kirby's Norse mythology for you. It doesn't make sense.
Pedro has a good question. What do you think is a better representation of the Greek gods, DC or Marvel? Oh, let me put it this way. The better, for me anyways, the better visual representation is DC just because of, the
George Perez Wonder
Woman? Yeah, the
the
George Perez War of the Gods.
Right.
That's what I would say. I don't know. Marvel never really dipped itself into the Greek gods very much, except for Hercules. Really. Not that I know of. They're not that I read. Let me put it that way.
I love George Perez's versions of the Greek gods in the Wonder Woman. I was like, finally, they're close to mythology. Because as much as I love Jack Kirby's Norse gods, they were space aliens. They weren't the Norse gods.
Let's see. Sorry, fellas. Just to let you know, once again, I can't see your
that's why I'm reading them.
Comments while I'm going through the other pages and looking at stuff. So I have to go to a separate page.
Japanese gods more than Greek? I don't recall any of the Japanese gods. You're probably right, though. Keep in mind, I haven't read Marvel in 10 years, so there's probably there's definitely like a whole series of Marvel that I don't know.
They're trying to push a lot of, I think, Korean stuff now with Korean mythology, just because of, it's not Silver Fox, but what the heck is her name? One of the characters that they're trying to bring into the movies and the television, she's a Korean pop star or something like that. Of course, that's what they're going for. It's like, yes, we're going to attract all of the female readers in the world by having one of our characters be a Korean pop star.
Yeah.
Luna Snow. Thank you very much.
She's in the Agents universe. Yeah.
Although I would say it's not a bad idea. Just giving it to current Marvel is not the way to go.
Right. If Stan Lee was alive right now, I'm sure he would have a K-pop star in the comics. What are these kids listening to? K-pop was make.
Yeah, exactly. Who was it that said that they was it? I can't remember. He said he used to go down to the newsstand every week and say, what's new? Ask the guy, what are the kids reading? He would pick up some magazines and then go to town with it for creating characters.
I don't know.
We'll go back to Strange Adventures here.
Yeah,
I never liked Animal Man. I don't know why. I guess it was because of the 90s version, late 80s, 90s version of Animal Man, where they made it, hipster Animal Man.
Yeah, George Morales says they created Dazzler just because of disco. it has one of my favorite word balloons in all of comic books, where Cyclops is in the disco listening to her sing, and Cyclops goes, "I know zilch about disco, but this girl is good." I don't know, that always made me laugh. The man with the comet head. There you go. RJ, you can put that in the next Thomas Valiant.
Well, it does say Strange Adventures.
There you go. The Split Man.
Yeah, this is old.
That's an
60s DC for you.
That's an awful cover.
Although Dead Man was a good character at the time, especially you had Neil Adams doing it.
Oh wow, is that his first appearance? Introducing Dead Man? I always liked Dead Man.
Until the 90s when they made him completely bony and look like an alien. But it was an interesting concept at the very least.
Art by George Russo, art by Neil Adams. Yeah, I always associated Neil Adams with Dead Man.
I think he took it over here. I think it's like 208. That looks like Neil Adams to me.
Yeah, looks like Dead Man caught on really quick. He just took over. They introduced him and he took over the whole comic.
Yeah, there you go. This is all Neil Adams here. Which, by the way, if anybody doesn't know, the powers of Dead Man, besides the fact that he's dead, he just possesses people and therefore gets into some strange adventures again.
He's a ghost that he has to possess. Like, you can't see him, you can't feel him, and then he possesses somebody. And like the gimmick was that person had like a glowing aura just to remind the reader who Dead Man was acting as. So like he looked like a regular person, and then if that person got killed or whatever, Dead Man would leave the body. But if you went to Nanda Pardat, this mystical city in India or Tibet, he manifested a body. So he would go there and like, I think he had a girlfriend there or whatever. But the goddess who lived in that town would like task him with all these missions.
Here we go. War in Washington, 1990 AD.
Oh man, yeah. Remember that? Remember that war in Washington, 1990? It was even worse than January 6th.
I remember the year. I wasn't too far off of that when the eugenics wars was supposed to start. Everybody in the comic shop was like, "Yeah, when is the eugenics war starting? It's supposed to start this year sometime."
It was like 1996, right?
Yeah.
Cons, the eugenic wars. Look at that alien. Talk about a blockhead. The weapon that swallowed men. Yeah, that was my ex-girlfriend.
You also have biplanes fighting aliens. Here we go.
That always bothered me that Doctor Who, there was that one that Winston Churchill like got Time Lord technology and the planes went up and fought the Nazis in space. Like, don't they reference that? Like, don't you remember the time Winston Churchill sent spaceships? That's why the Brits are always so fast and loose with continuity. It drives me nuts.
So
rovers. I like that one, the little rocket ship and the guy going crazy.
Yeah, that looks like a Strange Adventures book. And
1 out of 10 joke. Okay. Sorry, Jewel.
I can't remember. This is the end of the 244. They got a compilation book and they got 244 issues out of it. But let me ask you, John, off the top of your head, since you're the one with the giant collection, what is a good obscure comic that you think that people would not know about that they should be reading?
A good one? Off the top of my head, I'm going to say the Elementals is one of my favorite series. Is that obscure enough?
I think that is.
Yeah, the Elementals, Bill Willingham, who now he's probably more known for Fables from DC. But the Elementals was a Comico comic. It was one guy's Monolith, one guy's Fathom, Vortex, and Morningstar. So they rock, earth, water, fire. And to me, that is like the beginning of Grim and Gritty, but it was still superheroes. And they were immortal spirits that were just like, they all died. So in the Elementals universe, the only way to get superpowers is you die and you come back from the dead, like inhabited by spirits. And because of that, they were like morbid, like people didn't like them. Like, and when they didn't have a mission, they kind of just went through the motions of life. It was almost like they were chronically depressed. And I remember they're fighting all these supervillains, and they're like, well, what do we do? Like, they're literally the first superheroes, the first super beings on their planet. And then like a whole bunch of new ones start to rise, and they beat them. And they're like, what do we do? Like, do we put them in jail? The Earth isn't equipped to deal with this. And I remember the kid, Tommy Kazurka, just goes, we kill them. He goes, this isn't a comic book. We can't just put this guy in jail. He breaks out, kills another 60 people. He goes, they got superpowers. They use the superpowers against normal people. They die. And it was like the first grim and gritty comic. And keep in mind, this was like 82, 83. And, Bill, the reason why I got into this is because Bill Willingham did some of the original Villains Vigilantes artwork. So I followed him since the beginning of his career. I really, really, I think you could get, I really recommend these comics. It's amazing how well they hold up. I just reread them all like maybe 2 years ago.
I can't remember. I was talking to Mike Gustovich, and he said that he either started a comic, which was a crossover with his characters and the Elementals, and it never got published, or it got published way after and was never actually seen by anyone.
Yeah, through the Elementals, that's how I've found out about Mike Gustovich and the Justice Machine. They did a crossover comic. Logic Finest corrects me. Yeah, they didn't use Time Lord technology. They used that was I'm not even, that shows you how much it's worth remembering that series of Doctor Who. I love that big fat guy is Behemoth. He's super powerful, but like he's stupid, and he can't swim. He's just like so dense that he you know what I mean? Like, I just thought that was like a realistic touch. So he was scared of water. This big guy could lift 100 tons, but he's like, I don't want to go near water. I can't swim. But Ben Grimm shouldn't be able to swim.
I think that was I can't remember. How one of the ways that Professor X thought that he should kill, because he had a list at one point of how to kill every superhero on Earth, right? How to kill Ben Grimm was submerge him in water and drown him.
Same with Wolverine. Just
yes.
You can regenerate. Okay, not from the bottom of the ocean. Just drown. Yeah, the problem with Elementals was Comico was I think the owner of Comico got involved in like some shady underworld, crime, and I think he borrowed money from people he shouldn't have bought. This is all alleged, and I think he sold all the rights to pay back a loan, and and Bill Willingham was like, "What? I don't own my own characters anymore," kind of thing. And Bill, it like every once in a while, Bill Willingham will say something about the Elementals, and I'll ask him about it, and he's like, I don't want to talk about the Elementals. I'm like, dude, I'm a fan. I grew up loving the characters. I know that it bothers you, but I still love the comics. Like, just take the compliment. You know what I mean? Like, I heard Pete David was like kind of nasty about getting fired off the Hulk, and for a while he wasn't autographing those Hulk comics. Don't take that out on the fans. The fans, they don't know what happened behind the scenes. They just love your work. Take it as a compliment.
What about any of the spin-off series? Like Manhunter was a good spin-off series, if you ask me. First, you had the Walter Simonson version of Manhunter, and then after, what was the name of that DC event where Manhunters became? It was basically the Manhunters took over the entire summer run, right?
And they were like the original predecessors to the Green Lantern Corps. Yeah, I remember that.
But I suppose, because what was the guy? The guy's name was Mark Shaw, right?
Yeah. The Walt Simonson's Manhunter was Paul Kirk, and then he died, and then they brought back a clone called Kirk Paul. Millennium. There you go. That's the name of the series.
Yes, thank you.
Could somebody buy the Elementals and restart them? I don't know who owns the rights anymore. I don't think it's Bill Willingham. And somebody on Kickstarter, they just did a public domain Elementals book, and it went through. Nobody stopped them. I don't think Bill Willingham cares anymore because he doesn't own it. And whoever does own it probably didn't pay attention. But I remember somebody brought it to my attention like last year. There was a Elementals on Kickstarter. But I do know that the name Fathom was sold to Michael Turner. So even if they brought back the Elementals, they couldn't bring back Fathom.
Here's the unfortunate thing, guys. It's like when talking to Mike Kustovich, because his characters are now owned by somebody. He had to sell the characters in order to just basically keep himself going. And the people who own his characters, they just don't want to. They don't want anybody to use them because they think they're going to make millions of dollars off a movie someday with these characters. So it's
right.
They won't let anybody touch them.
Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Although, let's see. The other obscure books that I would usually buy from Marvel and DC, I don't know. I always found that Legion of Superheroes was fairly obscure. But when they got into 3-4 titles, like when we were looking at those Legion 89, they had 4 titles of Legion books going at the same time.
Yeah, they had the Legion, Legionnaires, Legion 89. Yeah, that's I can think of that just off the top of my head.
And they also had a reprint book at the same time going on.
George Morales is right. Old Dirty Fat. The last issue of the Elementals wasn't practically a porn. It was porn. I don't know what happened, but Bill Willingham did an Elemental sex special, and then there were these really bizarre, basically porn comics. And then the Elementals went away. So I don't know what happened. It was like a weird. And then Bill Willingham did it only lasted 3 issues. It was Coventry, and it was basically porn fantasy. And then he did a 12-issue series of Ironwood, which was exactly what it sounds like. It should have been like a Playboy comic. And then he went back to normal. I guess he had to get it out of his system or whatever. So yeah. Yes, pretzel sticks. Pretzel rods, actually. Have I read Dead World? No, I haven't read Dead World. Who is that? Eddie Campbell? Who did Dead World? I did not read it. I don't even think I had it. Why am I eating pretzel rods? Because I haven't had dinner yet, and I'm hungry, and they're here, and I have no willpower.
I don't know. I haven't talked to Chuck Dixon in a while. Is he still doing Airboy?
He crowdfunded Airboy 51 because Airboy ended at issue 50, and it like sets up a new status quo. It's like, the original Airboy was the father of the Airboy in that series, and then the new Airboy is the grandson of the original Airboy, and he was doing a mission over Africa, stopping like human trafficking in Africa, and he had plans to do it, but I don't think he made enough money on crowdfunding for him to continue doing it. But he would like to. I always liked Airboy. It was really weird.
Yeah, Eclipse Comics is when I actually started to see Airboy. I never knew what it was before that.
Yeah, he's a public domain character.
And what was
like? If anybody but Chuck Dixon does it, it's wrong. He's the definitive Airboy for me. But
I can't remember off the top of my head. I talked about this book a number of times. It was a graphic novel that came out. They had all the public domain characters, and it turned into a horror book. It was basically like Crisis on Infinite Earths with all these different public domain characters.
Superpowers?
What was that?
Was it Superpowers by like Dynamite Comics?
No. This is 1985. I can't remember what the heck. I think Chuck actually had something to do with it.
But, was it Eclipse Comics?
Yes, it was Eclipse Comics.
Yeah, Marv Wolfman wrote that. It was like Eclipse United or something like that. It was all the Eclipse comics. And and it was funny because they got Marv Wolfman to write that, like a company-wide crossover right after Crisis on Infinite. And boy, was it terrible if it's the same series I'm thinking of.
I gotta look it up.
Like Bean World was in it. Like I think like Airboy teamed up with Bean World.
Yes, because that's why I remember because Airboy was in it. That's why I'm thinking of it right now.
Yeah.
What the heck was the name? Oh, I can't remember because basically they tore the entire world down. They did the similar thing with Valiant at the same time. There was no, actually Valiant came after that, but Valiant Comics. But there was
I
I
never
don't know
got
if you have any of those Valiant Comics.
I
There
never
were
got
zero
any.
issues of those. I mean, before the one issues came out, they had a zero issue that you could only get if you sent in for it and
Right.
had bought all the rest of them.
Yeah, I never got any of the Valiant comics.
I can't. I'm trying to look it up and I can't find it for the life of me. But it was Eclipse Comics. I know that much. But yeah, it turned into a horror comic at the end.
Yeah, the age difference between Airboy, and Valkyrie always creeped me out. Yeah, Airboy, Valkyrie was the girlfriend of the original Dave Nelson Airboy, and then there was this great villain called Misery, and Misery flew around in this like gigantic B-12 bomber, and it was the Air Tomb, and it was this magic plane. And when you went inside, it was like this infinite dimension, kind of like the TARDIS, and it was just a murky graveyard. And anybody he killed went there, and Valkyrie was in there. And then the second Airboy goes up there and rescues Valkyrie. So she's, the same age, and she thinks it's the father, and so she's with him. So it's kind of creepy in that sense that she's with the father, and then she doesn't age, and now she's with the son. But she's now in Airboy 51. She's also hitting on the grandson of her original boyfriend. So yeah, and I don't know how she's still young in that, but there you go. It's the illusion of change, as Chuck Dixon. You got to maintain the status quo, but at the same time, changing things up.
Total Eclipse.
There you go.
That's what it was.
Yeah. That was the Crisis on Infinite Earths for Eclipse Comics.
Was it Bill Sienkiewicz did? I don't remember who did the covers.
He did the covers.
Yeah, it was a total mess. But again, you want to go to Obscure Comic to look for 1980s books and see what the heck was going on at this point. Go back to a Total Eclipse. You can probably, like, I normally come across it in dollar boxes today.
Yeah.
Miracle Man, he got a lot of characters in there that went places before and after it.
Yeah. Comics should be weird. Michael Marchowski says, yeah, they're pretty weird. And talk about a weird comic. Yeah. I just read this like last year.
I can remember, because I could never find when it came out at the time. I could never, because it was graphic novel format. I could never find all of them. I was always missing like two.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think it was. Anyways, yeah. Weird comic. Obscure. Yep. And I had to hunt it down for the life of me just because it got stuck in my head.
Brian Bank says, you mentioned liking the old Legion of superheroes multiple times. Have I heard of a new team of superheroes called Solo Legion? No, I haven't. The comic book is called Solo Legion versus the Ice Giant. Never heard of it. What company is making it? Is it a crowdfund? Is it a mainstream? Never heard of it. And George Mendez says, Valkyrie had the boob window on her outfit before Power. She didn't. No, she just didn't button up her shirt. And it was always like down to her belly button. And I just remember my father was like, is this why you're reading this comic? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Hard Boiled. Yeah, I remember that. Hard Boiled. I remember that. Jeez, that took me back. I have a weakness for the SW6 Legion of Superheroes, despite the. What is the SW6? They had a weird color scheme.
I don't remember. I'm looking up Legion of Superheroes.
I know that they had 3 different. There was the pre-crisis Legion, then there was a post-crisis Legion, and then they had like the New 52 Legion, and then Jeff Johns made a series called the Legion of 3. The Legion of 3 Worlds, and it was like the 3 futures could. Oh yes, the Clone Legion. Yes, I remember that. They called it. the Archie Legion, because the artwork kind of resembled Archie comic. I forgot. Yeah, that was
I
called.
agree. I actually have that entire run. One of the characters, let's see here, one of the characters that I loved from that run was Kinetics.
Yeah, yep. I'm trying to remember. Yes, because they did a 5 years later, and to me that was like the beginning of the end of the Legion. They just jumped to 5 years later, and then I forget how, but there was like a spin-off of like the original Legion as kids, and it became the Legionnaires.
Yeah, it's because the Dominators basically destroyed the Earth in Keith Giffen, Legion of Superheroes, which is the number one here, second from the left. And then the Dominators, who were instrumental in destroying the Earth, cloned all the Legion of Superheroes, and basically they got free from, I don't know what it was that they were in stasis for. They all got birthed at a wrong time, and then they joined up with the rest of the Legion of Superheroes because they had the mentality. They weren't just the physical bodies that were cloned, but they cloned them down to their memories. So they thought they were the original Legion of Superheroes, and that the Earth had been destroyed.
It was like the best of both worlds. You had the adult Legion, and then you had like basically the teenage Legion at the same time. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Keith Giffen got the kill of Karate Kid twice. Yeah.
And of course, I'll never forgive Keith Giffen for what he did to Dream Girl. He made her old and fat.
That's right. I was like, what happened? Zoe Sagwin on the planet Aleph gained the power to telekinetic magic and became the superhero as Kinetics.
Which was a good character for Legion of Superheroes, because the whole point of Legion of Superheroes in the future is that, you got the science police and everything science. And then they throw in these magical characters which throw everything off kilter.
Right. Yeah, like the White Witch and then what was his name? Why can't it, the wizard that they always fought? Mordu. They always had a problem with Mordu because he controlled magic. I always loved Emerald Empress. I just loved that she had these two big eyeballs that would just destroy everything.
And I don't even, this is, I think this was an annual that was done, but there's some beautiful art in these runs.
Yeah. Well, RJ, it's almost 10 o'clock. I got to go to bed.
I apologize, John. I completely didn't even realize what time it was.
All of a sudden, I just realized how tired I am. So I got to go. I wake up at 4 a.m. So are you going to shut down, or am I just going to say goodbye?
I'm going to shut down. Don't you worry. We'll say goodbye to John and just let everybody know that his book is open right now. The link for it is in the description for Heroic Tales #2, and also for the sign-up page for Fade to Blue, my book, which will be coming out later this year. I apologize for everyone that I did not get to look through the chat today, but I wanted to go through some obscure characters and talk to John, because John is the man to talk to if you want to talk obscure comics.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, John. And thank you very much to everybody in the chat.
Can I just let people know that I got Heroic Tales 2 live for my comic. My next campaign is going to be the Patriarch #1. And then after that, I got Luke Stone working on a story. I got Stipling Vaughn working on a story. DC Miller working on a story. So I got a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff going. I got a lot of what do they call it? Irons in the fire. So I appreciate the support on my comic, because everything that goes into this comic is funding the next comic. That's the way I'm working. So I already got like scripts out to everybody. So I don't want to sound like PBS, but we could use your support.
No, definitely. I got my copy, and it's I think, like I said, I'm backer number 312. So I always wait until the last minute to get some.
you'll there's going to be something there's two things that you're really going to like. I already told you about both of them, but I'm betting you forgot about them. So
yeah, most probably.
You'd be surprised. There's two things that you're really going to like in Heroic Tales #2. I mean, there's things everybody's going to like, but two things that RJ is especially going to like.
All right. Since we've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes, I'm just going to end the stream. We're not going to have any outro video. Say goodbye to everyone, and bye to John. And thank you.